Welcome to the Crack Podcast, everyone. If you're anything like me, you probably know that low-level hum of pressure all too well. You know, the kind that keeps you up at night thinking about a bill or a deadline, or maybe just figuring out what on earth you're supposed to do next. It's just part of life, isn't it? Life doesn't exactly come with a problem-free guarantee.
No, it really doesn't. That's just the human condition, right? We run into everything. Small stuff like missing your bus or your computer deciding to die at the worst possible moment. But then there are the big things, too. The really deep wounds, financial trouble, losing someone, a relationship falling apart, things that shake you up. And when that hits, the mind just goes straight to, fear, chaos, restlessness. It's almost automatic.
Yeah, that restlessness, the panic, that feels like the real enemy sometimes. You start spiraling, right? Replaying things, imagining every awful possibility, burning all this energy, worrying about stuff that might not even happen. Peace of mind, gone. But we've been doing a deep dive into this amazing guide. It's called the Peaceful Mind Formula. And it actually offers a shortcut. Not like escaping problems, but genuinely mastering them.
Exactly. And what jumps out right away from this guide is its core idea, which feels a bit backwards at first. The real battle isn't out there, it's in here, the world's gonna throw stuff at you, that's a given. But if your mind is all over the place, even a tiny issue feels huge. But if you're calm, stable inside, you can handle surprisingly heavy loads.
Okay.
So what we're doing is pulling out that wisdom into a formula, something really practical you can use right away.
Okay, perfect. Let's unpack that. So our mission today is basically to give you, our listener, the blueprint. It breaks down building a house. First, you've got the foundation. That means getting that big perspective shift sorted, seeing problems as teachers, not punishments. And crucially, learning how to calm that internal storm before you jump into action.
Right, that's phase one.
Then phase two is the execution. That's the really practical, step-by-step 5-point formula for how you actually analyze the problem and take action. So let's start with that foundation piece, the philosophy behind it. We all kind of dream about that perfect, smooth day, don't we, where everything just clicks. But the guide is pretty blunt that day. Never really shows up.
Well, yeah, life's not static. It moves. It changes. The guide uses this great analogy. Life is like a river. Sometimes it's calm, flowing nicely, but then storms hit, seasons change, and suddenly the river's rough, full of rocks. The problems, they're just the rocks in the river. You can't stop the current, you can't remove all the rocks. Wisdom is learning how to steer around them, maybe even use them, instead of just standing on the bank yelling about how unfair the river is.
I think the hardest part of accepting that, though, that problems are just normal, is how fast we slap a label on them.
Yeah.
Something happens and boom,
It's
terrible, unfair, disaster.
Instantly, yeah. But if you actually stop and think back on your own life, those initial labels, they're often way off. Think about, an exam you were terrified of, studied like crazy for. Or maybe losing a job that forced you onto a completely different path. At the time, it felt like the end of the world, right? But looking back, those were the moments that built your strength, taught you things you needed to know. They were tough teachers, definitely, but teachers nonetheless.
The source material really hammers this home with that incredible maybe principle. It's wrapped up in the story of the farmer and his horse. This story just nails that idea of emotional neutrality.
Oh, it's fantastic. You really need the whole story to get it. So you have this farmer and his horse, his most valuable thing, runs off. All the neighbors come running over. Oh, this is terrible. Awful luck, you're ruined. They're devastated for him. But the farmer, totally calm, he just says, maybe. That's it. He refuses to label it good or bad. Just maybe.
And then what happens? A week later, the horse comes back. And it brings 3 wild horses with it. So now the neighbors are back again, ecstatic. Incredible, you're rich. What amazing luck.
And the farmer, seeing how quickly things change, just shrugs and says,
Maybe.
Exactly, maybe. And the story keeps going, showing how unpredictable things are. Soon after, his son tries to train one of the wild horses, gets thrown off, and breaks his leg badly. So the neighbors are back again. Oh, the tragedy. This is dreadful luck. A farmer looks at his son, injured, but still calm, and he just says, right. And here's the kicker, the real lesson. A month later, the army comes through the village. They're grabbing all the young men, forcing them into a war, a really brutal one, far away. But they take one look at the farmer's son with his broken leg, and they just pass him by. He's unfit for service. So the thing they called terrible luck, the broken leg, actually saved his life.
Wow.
The insight for you, the listener, is just how rarely things are as definitively good or bad as we immediately think they are. Problems often hide opportunities. So the very first step, the foundation of this whole formula, is changing the question you ask yourself. Stop asking, Why me? That's the victim question. Instantly switched to, what is this here to teach me? That little shift stops the fight against reality and opens you up to growth.
Okay, accepting problems as teachers, that's a powerful mindset shift.
Yeah.
But let's get practical. When I'm actually in it, stressed about something real, my body just takes over. Heart pounds, mind races. How do you manage that immediate, gut reaction?
Yeah.
That panic?
Yeah, that's critical. And the guide tackles that immediately as the next step, because if you're not calm inside, all the best insights, the best plans, they're useless. You can't even see them. Sometimes the problem itself isn't the biggest threat. Our reaction to it is.
Right. This is that foggy windshield analogy you mentioned. I love that image.
It paints such a clear picture, doesn't it? Imagine you're driving. Dark night, winding road, pouring rain. That's the external problem. Tricky conditions, stressful. Now imagine your windshield suddenly fogs up completely from the inside. The storm outside is still there, yes, but that internal fog, your fear, your stress, blocking your view, that's the immediate danger. If you can't see the road, you're going to crash, no matter how bad the rain actually is.
So the real danger isn't necessarily the circumstance itself. It's the internal fog, the emotional reaction that blinds us. This connects to that story about the king, right? The one searching for the ultimate power.
Yes, exactly. The king asks his wise advisors, what's the single greatest power a person can have? And they suggest all the usual things. Money, for influence, physical strength, to command others, knowledge, to innovate. But the oldest, wisest advisor steps up and says, no, Your Majesty, the greatest power is a peaceful mind.
And his logic was, what? Why peace over, say, money or strength?
His argument was that without a peaceful mind, money gets wasted on foolish things. Strength gets used in anger, causing destruction. Knowledge gets twisted to create harm or more problems. But if your mind is calm, that inner peace ensures all those other powers, money, strength, and knowledge, are used wisely, effectively. Peace directs power. When you're panicked, you rush, you make bad calls, you almost always make things worse in the long run.
That's a huge insight. Stop trying to fix the problem until you've fixed the panic. Okay, so what does the guide suggest for clearing that fog, right there in the moment? Because I don't have time for a spa day when the deadline is looming.
No, definitely not. The practices are super simple, designed for immediate use. First one, pause and breathe. Seriously, when that anxiety wave hits, just stop. Whatever you're doing. Take 10 slow, deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. This isn't just woo-woo stuff, it's biology. Deep breathing actually triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your brain the immediate threat is over and lets the thinking part, your prefrontal cortex, come back online.
Okay, that makes sense. You're basically hitting the brakes on the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
Second is step back. Literally. Create physical distance. Get up, walk away for 5 minutes, make a cup of tea, just stare out the window. That little bit of space, both time and physical distance, it shifts your perspective. You go from being in the swirling chaos to observing it from the outside, which feels much safer and clearer.
And the third tool helps break that mental loop, right? The worrying.
Exactly. Ask a new question. Instead of getting stuck in why me or how could this happen or replaying mistakes, immediately pivot to something actionable, even tiny. What's the best small step I can take right now? That question yanks your brain out of the past or the imagined future and forces it into constructive, present moment thinking.
So the core idea here is deal with the inside first. Calm the mind, clear the windshield, then tackle the outside world. A calm mind is a wise mind. Makes perfect sense. All right, so we've got our calm, we've cleared the windshield. Now we move into actually looking at the problem itself, right? The analysis phase. And this is about more than just putting out today's fire. It's about preventing the next one, getting past the symptoms to the real root cause.
Yes, this is like pulling out the blueprints before you start hammering nails in our house analogy. If you skip the blueprint, you're going to have endless problems later. And the guide uses another brilliant analogy here, the leaky roof.
Ah, the leaky roof. I feel like I lived this one sometime.
We all do. Think about it. Your roof leaks, water drips onto the floor. What's the first reaction? Grab a bucket, put it under the drip. Bucket fills up, you empty it. Feels like you're doing something right, managing the water. But are you solving the problem? Nope. The problem isn't the water in the bucket, it's the hole in the roof. Until you patch that hole, you're just going to be emptying buckets forever. It's exhausting.
And we do this everywhere, don't we? Financial stress, shuffle debt around instead of fixing spending habits. Burnout jump jobs instead of setting boundaries. We keep emptying the bucket.
Exactly. It connects to that story of the monk and the dog. This young monk is trying to meditate, but he's constantly bothered by thoughts popping into his head like a stray dog wandering in. He complains to his master, "I spend all my time chasing this dog out." And the master just asks him, "Well, if a dog keeps getting into your house, do you spend your life chasing it out every single time? Or do you eventually find the broken door it's using and fix that?"
So the annoying thought, the recurring debt, the same argument with your partner. That's the dog. It's not the real problem. The problem is the doorway letting it in. So what are these doorways usually? What kind of root causes are we talking about?
Often they're deep patterns. Like maybe the root of ongoing money issues isn't really your income level, but a fear of scarcity that makes you overspend when you feel stressed. Or maybe the root of relationship difficulties isn't always the other person, but your own fear of conflict, so you never set clear boundaries. Finding that root cause, the doorway suddenly makes the problem feel solvable because you're dealing with one specific thing, not just, endless chaos.
Okay, so to help us pinpoint that root cause, once we're calm, the guide gives us 2 key diagnostic questions. What's the first?
First one requires real honesty. What's really causing this? You have to dig deeper than the surface complaint. Like instead of just, "I hate my job," push further. Maybe it's really, "I'm terrified of applying for something better because I secretly believe I'm not good enough." That fear is the root.
Oof. Yeah, that takes courage. And the second question looks at the history.
Right, exactly. Is this a repeating pattern? If you keep finding yourself in the same pickle, same kind of arguments, same jet cycle, same feelings of overwhelm, that's a huge red flag. It screams, you haven't fixed the root cause. The roof is still leaking. You're just getting better at emptying buckets, maybe buying nicer buckets. But the problem will come back until you fix the structure.
Okay, finding the root cause is the what. But knowing what's wrong doesn't fix it unless you have the right mindset, the right internal stance. This brings us to that crucial shift the guide talks about.
Yeah.
Moving from being a victim of the problem to being the master of your response.
Yeah, this is fundamental. It explains why two people can face the exact same difficulty and have completely different outcomes. The victim looks at pain, at hardship, and their narrative is, "Why me? This always happens to me. It's unfair. I'm powerless." They basically hand over control to the situation.
Whereas the Anstranos, they feel the same pain, but their internal question is different.
Totally different. The master acknowledges the difficulty, yes, but asks, "Okay, this is tough. What can I learn here? What's the next right step I can take?" The master understands. I can't always control what happens to me, but I always control how I respond, internally and then externally with my actions. The source uses that powerful story of the two brothers to illustrate this. Remember, they grew up in the exact same difficult household: poverty, abusive alcoholic father. Same external source of pain.
Right, but one brother completely repeated the cycle.
Yeah.
Became an alcoholic himself, blamed his dad for everything, basically lived out that victim narrative.
Exactly. He identified with the pain, but the other brother became incredibly successful, a great dad, never drank. And when someone asked him how he avoided his father's fate, he said something like, "I saw him. I learned exactly what I didn't want to be. I chose differently." Same input, same pain. Radically different internal choice, different response, different life.
That is so stark. Pain happens, the river gets rocky, but it's our response that writes the future. Victim or master, it's a choice.
And to help make that choice consciously, the formula offers 3 active steps for shifting your mindset in the moment. First, catch the thought. You have to become aware of that automatic inner voice whining, "It's not fair, why me? It's their fault." Recognize that's the victim script starting up.
Got it. Awareness first, then.
Second, immediately change the question. Literally swap out "why me" for "what can I do now?" or "what's the lesson here?" You're deliberately short-circuiting the helplessness loop and activating the problem-solving part of your brain.
And third, it's about action.
Yes. Take one small action. Masters don't wait until they feel brave or have the perfect plan. They know action itself kills fear. Doesn't matter how small. Send one email. Make one phone call. Write one sentence. That tiny step proves you're not powerless, builds a little momentum, and reinforces the master identity.
So the message is clear. Problems don't make you weak or strong. Your response does. Consistently choose "what now" over "why me," and you step into mastery.
Okay, so we've laid the foundation, we're calm, we've adopted the master mindset. Now we get to the actual how-to, the nuts and bolts. The 5-step formula for practical action. The guide compares the whole messy problem to climbing a huge mountain.
Yeah, that analogy really works. Standing at the bottom of Everest, it seems impossible. But nobody climbs it by staring at the summit. They focus on the next camp, the next ridge, literally the next place to put their foot. Breaking it down makes it doable.
Problems are exactly like that. They feel overwhelming when you look at the whole thing at once. This formula breaks that mountain down into 5 clear, manageable steps.
Let's walk through them. Step 1. Define the problem clearly. This sounds obvious, but how often do we skip it? We just live with this vague cloud of, ugh, work is stressful or money's tight.
Right. You need to nail it down. Write it out in one sentence. Be specific. Not, my life's a mess, but I need to find a job that pays $6 by Y date, or I need to have that difficult conversation with my colleague this week. Clarity is power. You can't solve a fog. You need something concrete to work on.
Okay, defined. Then step 2. Break it into smaller parts. Take that big, clear goal and chop it up into bite-sized tasks. So find a job becomes update resume, research 5 companies, draft cover letter template, apply for 3 jobs today.
Exactly. Make the steps so small they feel almost trivial, not scary. Looking at a list of 3 tiny things feels way less intimidating than that one giant goal. Your brain is much more willing to start.
Step 3 is about creativity. Imagine possible solutions. The guide stresses not shutting down ideas too quickly here, like brainstorm without judging.
Yeah, give your brain some room to play. Often the first couple of ideas are the obvious ones you've already tried. Maybe the real breakthrough is idea number 4 or 5, the one that seems a bit weird at first. Write them all down, don't filter yet. Exploring options stops you from getting stuck on just one path that might not be working.
Makes sense. Then step 4. Take one small step calmly. This is where the rubber meets the road. Actually doing something.
And notice the word calmly. Because you did the prep work, you're calm, you have a plan. This step shouldn't feel like a frantic scramble. You're just executing the smallest, next logical action from step 2. And like we said, action itself dissolves fear. You don't need to feel confident before you start. You build confidence by starting.
Love that. And finally, step 5. Learn and adjust. This feels crucial. We need to stop seeing mistakes or changes of plan as, like, total failure.
Absolutely critical. The plan isn't sacred. It's a starting point, a hypothesis. If something doesn't work, it's not a reflection on you. It's just data. Feedback. Think of Thomas Edison trying to invent the light bulb. He didn't see the thousands of attempts that didn't work as failures. He famously said something like, I haven't failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work.
That reframing is everything for persistence, isn't it? Each wrong way just gets you closer to the right way. So the 5 steps: define, break down, imagine, act, adjust. It's a cycle that keeps you moving forward without getting swamped by the size of the mountain.
So now you have the formula, you know the steps. But the guide adds a really important layer. You have to actively protect the peace you're cultivating. Because there are these internal enemies always trying to sneak back in and mess things up. 3 main ones: fear, anger, and overthinking. They undermine your calm and stop you using the formula effectively.
Okay, let's look at those enemies. First up, 1, fear. The shadow. We all know this one, that heavy feeling when you need to do something hard. Make that call, send that email, and you just keep putting it off.
Fear works just like a shadow. Think about it. If the light source is behind you, your shadow stretches out way in front, looking huge and terrifying. But what happens if you turn around and face the light source directly? The shadow shrinks, maybe disappears completely. Facing the fear, taking the action does the same thing. The longer you avoid it, the bigger and scarier the fear grows in your mind.
Oh, I've totally done that. Avoided opening an email for days, convinced it was going to be awful news, and then finally opened it, and it was nothing major. The fear was mostly invention.
Exactly. Fear paralyzes you. It wants you to stay still while things potentially get worse. The cure, it goes right back to the formula: action in small steps. Step 4, even just drafting the first sentence of that scary email breaks the paralysis. It shrinks the shadow.
Okay, enemy number 2. 2, anger, the fire. Anger can feel powerful in the moment, right? Like a burst of energy, but it almost always backfires.
Always. The guy uses the striking analogy of a man carrying hot coals. He's furious with someone and decides he's going to run over and throw these burning coals at their house. But who gets burned first? Him. Holding onto the coals burns his own hands, scorches his own clothes, long before he even gets near the target. Anger damages the person feeling it first and foremost.
Yeah, when we lash out in anger, fire off that furious email, yell at someone, we rarely solve anything. Usually, we just create new problems. Broken trust, regrets, more stress.
Absolutely. The cure for anger. It's back to the foundation. Step 1, pause and breathe. Step back. Never react in the heat of the moment. Create that space. Let the fire cool down in your own hands first. Then you can choose words that actually solve the problem instead of words that just add fuel to the fire.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And the third enemy. 3, overthinking, the endless loop. This one feels very modern, just churning and churning things in your head.
It's like running on a mental treadmill. You're expending massive amounts of energy, getting totally exhausted, simulating every disastrous what if, but you haven't actually moved forward one bit. Overthinking loves complexity, loves exploring every potential pitfall, and it absolutely hates simple action.
So how do we hop off the treadmill?
The cure is decide and act with the information you have, then adjust later. Except that you'll almost never have 100% certainty before you start something. A master knows that, say, 80% certainty is good enough to get going, as long as you're committed to step 5, learning and adjusting. Stop the endless analysis paralysis. Take the step. Action brings you back to reality. Breaks the loop. #tag B. Tools for daily mental health. The Farmer's Garden.
Knowing the enemies is one thing, but we also need positive habits, right? Ways to actively nurture that peace every day. The guide uses the analogy of a farmer's garden, which is lovely.
It really fits. A good farmer doesn't wait for weeds to take over the whole plot. They pull them out daily when they're small and easy to manage, and they feed the good plants regularly. Our minds are the same. If we neglect them, the weeds, worries, negativity will absolutely take over. These tools are like daily tending for your mental garden.
Okay, tool 1, journaling, emptying the cup, just writing stuff down. Why is that so powerful?
Think of your mind like a cup you carry around all day. It fills up with worries, anxieties, ideas, frustrations. If you never empty it, eventually it just overflows. You feel stressed, overwhelmed. Journaling is like tipping that cup out onto the page. Getting the thoughts out of your head and onto paper separates you from them. They're there, not in you anymore. It lightens the mental load. Even just 5 minutes before bed, scribbling down whatever's swirling around can make a huge difference to how you feel and sleep.
Tool 2, gratitude. The light in the dark. Gratitude can sometimes feel a bit fluffy. How does it actually help when you're facing a real tough problem?
Its power is in shifting perspective, which is actually a neurological thing. When you're stuck in a problem, your brain naturally focuses on what's wrong, what you're lacking scarcity thinking. Gratitude forces your brain to stand for what's right, what you do have, even tiny things like a warm bed, a decent cup of coffee, a friend who listened. It focuses on abundance. It doesn't make the problem disappear, but it builds your emotional resources, gives you a foundation of strength to face the difficulty from. The practice is simple. Just jot down 3 specific things you're grateful for each night and slowly rewires your default outlook.
In tool 3, reflection, the quiet teacher. We're so bad at silence these days. Why is taking time to just quietly reflect so important?
Because reflection is how you turn raw experience into actual wisdom. If you just bounce from one problem or task to the next without ever stopping to think about it, you're not really learning. You're just reacting. Reflection is deliberately setting aside, say, 10 minutes, maybe at the end of the day, and asking yourself, what did I learn today? Where did I get hooked by anger or fear? How could I handle that better next time? It's like reviewing the game tapes. Without that quiet review, you're doomed to repeat the same fumbles. Reflection sharpens the master's skills.
Okay, let's talk about maybe the trickiest category of problems, the ones involving other people. The guide makes a great point that most of our really deep stresses often wear a human face. A difficult boss, family conflicts, friendships gone sour.
Yeah, those are tough. You can't just apply cold logic to people's problems the way you might fix a budget spreadsheet. People bring emotions, egos, irrationality, history. It's complex. These situations test our patience, our communication, our ability to manage our own feelings in the face of someone else's.
The guide uses that story of the 2 neighbors and the oak tree to show just how much energy we can waste on these kinds of conflicts when ego takes over.
Oh, that's a powerful one. These 2 guys used to be good friends living next door to each other for years, but they get into this massive, bitter feud over an old oak tree that sits near their property line. They argue constantly whose land is it on, who gets the acorns, it consumes them. They stop talking, build fences between their yards, probably spend a fortune on lawyers. All over this one tree, years of bitterness.
Wasting all that time and peace. And what finally happens?
A big storm comes through one night and just blows the whole tree down, totally destroys it. And the 2 neighbors come out the next morning, stand on their separate sides of the fence, staring at the wreckage. And they both have this awful realization. They threw away years of friendship, years of peace, fighting over something that was temporary and ultimately not that important. They were focused on winning, not on being neighbors.
That's such a sad cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid that trap? How does the formula apply to dealing with difficult people?
The guide suggests 3 key steps for people problems. First, and maybe most important, listen before speaking. Think Think about it. Most arguments aren't really about the facts. They're about feeling disrespected, ignored, unheard. If someone's upset or angry, the quickest way to de-escalate is often just to shut up and truly listen. Acknowledge their point of view, even if you don't agree with it. Show you've heard them. That act of listening itself can soften their stance immensely. Don't just wait for your turn to talk and make your counter-argument.
That takes discipline.
Yeah.
Okay, listen first. What's second?
Second is the big ego check. Choose peace over winning. In the heat of a conflict, you have to consciously ask yourself, what's my real goal here? Is it more important for me to prove I'm right, or is it more important for me to find peace? Often, letting go of the need to win the argument, to have the last word, is the biggest win for your own long-term well-being and the relationship.
Right. Being right but miserable isn't much of a victory. And third
is forgive and release. Holding onto a grudge, nursing that anger about how someone wronged you. It doesn't punish them, it punishes you. It's like that saying, holding onto anger is like carrying a heavy backpack full of rocks. You're the only one weighed down by it. Forgiveness isn't necessarily saying what they did was okay. It's about cutting the emotional cord that ties your peace to their past actions. You're releasing yourself from the burden. It's a gift you give to yourself. Hashtag tag to the right work.
Living the formula, the Chinese bamboo.
So we've journeyed through the whole thing, the core mindset, the calming techniques, finding the root, the 5 steps, the daily tools, even handling people problems. The final piece seems to be about making this a real lived practice, not just theory we read about.
Exactly. Living this peaceful mind formula isn't about one big aha moment. It's about the small stuff, done consistently. Every time you choose to pause instead of react. Every time you choose to ask, what can I learn instead of why me?
Yeah.
Every time you forgive when your ego wants revenge. Every time you spend 5 minutes journaling. Those little choices, repeated day after day, they build something profound. It's like that analogy the guide uses of the Chinese bamboo tree, right? Where it seems like nothing's happening for ages.
Precisely. The farmer plants a bamboo seed. First year, nothing visible above ground. Second year, still nothing. Third, fourth year, same thing, just dirt. You can imagine people thinking the farmer's crazy, wasting his time.
But then, in the 5th year, boom,
Yeah.
the bamboo shoots up like 80 feet tall in just 6 weeks. It's incredible.
And the question is, did it grow 80 feet in 6 weeks? No way. It spent 4 solid years underground building this massive, intricate root system. A root system strong enough to support that explosive growth when the time was right.
And that's how building inner peace works, too. Those small daily actions, breathing, defining a problem, listening, they might not feel dramatic at first, but you're building your roots. You're creating this deep internal stability. So when the next big storm inevitably hits your life, you won't get blown over. You'll be unshakable.
That's the core message. Peace isn't about finding a life with no problems. That doesn't exist. Peace is about building the inner strength to handle any problem with clarity, wisdom, and a steady heart. Every time you practice one of these steps, you're watering those roots.
So the formula is already inside you, really. Every challenge is just practice, a chance to strengthen that inner core. Every choice for calm makes life feel lighter, stronger.
So take these ideas we've dived into, and apply them today. Don't wait for a crisis. Pick one small annoyance, define it clearly, and take one calm step. Start building those roots now.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Peaceful Mind formula here on the Crack Podcast. You know, looking back, we rarely regret the problems we faced and solved. What we tend to regret are the relationships we lost, or the inner peace we sacrificed because we held on to anger, or refused to learn the lesson the problem was offering.
Keep practicing. Stay consistent. Mastery isn't magic, it's just doing the work, building those roots day by day.
Absolutely. And hey, if you found this useful, please hit that like button and definitely subscribe to the Crack Podcast. It really helps us keep these deep dives coming and ensures you won't miss the next one. We'll keep unpacking timeless wisdom for success and growth. Until then, keep climbing your mountains, one calm step at a time.